Rob, I am still rocking 3 Macs at one time on my desk, and I haven't fixed that situation. I think we talked about this a little bit before, but it's just a complete mess here because I've been testing M1 Macs, and I really need to get down to just one Mac because I kind of forget which machine I'm on, which one. They all have, slightly different software on them and different setups and all that kind of thing. And I've been working on a Mac Mini that really is not being backed up anywhere. So, I'm living life dangerously.
It's a very John specific complaint.
I know.
There's too many computers.
It's a humble brag. It's quite a weird flex, but yeah, I kind of like doing all these experiments and having all this stuff connected together all at once. It's kind of fun, but it does get to be a little confusing. And I've been working on a Mac a lot for like the last 9 months. It seems like it's been constant because we rolled right from Big Sur betas right into new M1 chip-based Macs. So I've been on the Mac more than I have most years, and it's good. I'm not complaining, but right now I need to wipe one of these Macs, send it back to Apple, and then figure out which one's going to be my main computer. I'm thinking about going back to a laptop in clamshell mode. Rob, am I crazy? Am I crazy to be thinking about doing that?
No, that's why. That's how it's the only computer I've got.
Yeah,
is a MacBook. So it's fine for the most part.
Yeah, I always found it frustrating with the Intel Macs, like the sleep wake stuff and the external monitor stuff were always like a little. They never seem to work 100% for me. But I have noticed with the M1s that it's a lot more reliable, and maybe it's more of a Big Sur thing. It's very hard to tell since they came out at about the same time, but it's been really good. The new Mac Mini, and not Mac Mini, the MacBook Air has been really reliable as a clamshell Mac.
Yeah, it's a decent. You're not the only person to say it's been good, but yeah, it seems like a really, really good computer, especially for the price.
Yeah, I think it is, and it is particularly for one of the things that when I reviewed these things, I was thinking about was. I think a lot of people who are kind of geek type people like myself like to aspire to the Mac Pro or something like that or the MacBook Pro, just because it's the most computer and everything will be a little bit faster. The reality is that with the M1, the vast majority of people I don't think really need that much computer anymore. I think that the difference is even less than before, just because everything is so quick with these fast SSDs in it, plus the fast processor, that unless you're doing something that really requires a lot of parallel fast cores, it's really not going to make much difference if you're using the Air. The Air is already very fast and right up there with some of those, at least the Intel Mac Pros. It's right up there in terms of like the benchmarks and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, Rob, we should talk about Disney Plus because we haven't talked about Disney Plus in a little while. And I have a show that I want to say that probably everybody who's listening to this thinks is really good, but I thought was really awful when I first watched it. And that's WandaVision. I watched the first episode of that, and I thought this was the dumbest show I've ever watched ever.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I didn't feel quite that strongly about it, but I do agree with you. I think the first 2 episodes, because the first 2 released on the same day, and they're both very similar episodes.
Right.
We're not going to get into like spoilers or anything like that because I don't want to, especially not at the beginning of the show. But yeah, like the first 2 episodes were really slow, and they were like, there's not really anything going on. There was a few little references if you were really paying attention. Like I kind of saw this afterwards, but like if you really know all of the Marvel movies and stuff, like there's some references there that were like, oh, that's a thing from this movie or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Like there really wasn't a lot going on in the first 2 episodes, and then now here we are on the 5th episode.
Yeah,
I think
5th or 6th, something like that.
And it's like really good. It's an amazing show.
Right. And I think they really undersold it in a way that was kind of dangerous, really, because after I saw the first episode, I almost didn't even watch the second episode. I think it's safe to say that the premise of the first episode is kind of like a 50s sitcom type of situation. And there, as you said, if you know the movies really well and paid close attention, there were some hints in there, and there were just a couple of things that you were aware of that were like, well, that's a little off. That's not quite right. And it was just enough for me to think, well, there's something more to this. There has to be something more to this. I'm going to watch again. But I think they probably overdid that just a little bit because, boy, I didn't really enjoy that first one, and now I really like the show, and I'm looking forward to every episode now. But I was not bought into it at all at the front end. I thought this was going to be like one of those shows where I watched a couple and thought, well, I'll watch one more, and then it was either, well, I'm just going to watch the end because I'm too invested in it now, or I'm just going to feel like I wasted a few hours. But in the end, I'm actually really happy with it.
Yeah, I think, what the hell do I know about running a TV show or a streaming service? But I think if it was me, I would maybe have done a slightly longer first episode.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And maybe leaked some of the third episode where it sort of really gets going into that first episode, so that it was like a bit more rounded of, right, here's the pilot in the traditional sense of how the TV, they kind of, you see everything and you mostly know what the show's about. Whereas I think in this instance, it's not till the third episode that you really get a sense of what the show is or what it's even going to be.
Right. Then you start realizing what the context is. And I think, and that's maybe relying too much on either the super fans of Marvel who know all the lore, which I like Marvel movies, but I don't know all the details, and I don't try to know all the details, and I don't rewatch the movies for the most part. And so either that or people just coming across headlines and social media and things that lead them to think that there's something more. And I actually was, when this came out, I was kind of busy on some things. Plus, I don't like to be exposed to spoilers, so I basically ignored all of the media hype around WandaVision. I knew there was hype, but I didn't know why there was hype. And so that when I actually sat down to watch it, I was a little confused why people were excited about this show, to be honest, at first. But, I guess I've been around the internet long enough to know that there probably was something more to it, and so I kept watching.
Yeah, and I think people were. Firstly, we've had a year without any Marvel movies,
right? Which is the first time in years and years.
Yeah, there's been no TV shows. There's been no movies. We haven't even really had any new trailers since like a Black Widow trailer in like June or something,
right?
So I think that has to be part of it, as well as it's like, as a fan of the movies, unlike you, like I do watch them again, and I do pick up on some of the little Easter eggs and stuff like that, but I think, yeah, you're right. Like, a lot of the hype was just like, well, there's just a new Marvel show. Like, we'll literally take anything at this point. It doesn't matter what it is. We'll watch it. Speaking
of trailers, I would say that what is it? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier one coming out. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does. It's got the same, or certainly from the trailer, it looks like it's got the same kind of vibe as Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where it's like this sort of, is it like a spy show? Do you know what I mean? Like it's got that same kind of vibe, and if it has, then that's great, because it's like one of my favorite of the Marvel movies. Yeah,
it definitely is more of an action show. It's interesting that WandaVision ended up being the first show released as a TV show from Disney Plus, because it's really kind of an oddball show when you think about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I say, I think it's got enough. There's enough people that care about the Marvel universe in general that it will be fine. But you're totally right. Like, this isn't necessarily the show to sell. Oh, look at us, we're Disney and we're making TV shows from our movie characters. Like, this isn't it,
right? Right.
Or at least it wasn't in the first two episodes. I think it is now. It's way more obvious now. It's like, oh, okay, this is like a good thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And it just seems like a riskier choice to lead with. And I know that schedules got mixed up because of the pandemic, and release schedules and when these shows were originally going to come out changed over time. So I'm sure there's been a lot of adjustments, and maybe this wasn't their first pick for the show that would lead off on Disney Plus from Marvel. But in the end, I'm happy with it. I'm looking forward to the next show. It's nice to have new things to watch. It seems like there's a decent amount coming out at the moment. Tell me though, Rob, tell me a little bit about Star, because I know that you've got Star coming to the UK, which is a version of Disney Plus, I guess, or how does it work exactly?
Yeah, so the email that I got, other than the email was trying to remind me, oh, hey, you need to pay us for another year, which, is fine. The email I got said that this is just going to be another tab in Disney Plus called Star.
Oh, all right.
So I don't pay any extra for it. It's just part of my subscription. Now, I assume they're going to put the prices up. But, that's fine. I don't really mind. It's fairly cheap right now. But this I think is their way of getting all of the non-family friendly Disney stuff to other people, because obviously in the US that would be on things like Hulu and Fox and places like that. But like in the UK, there's no way for me to watch any of like the Hulu stuff, and I think some of the Fox stuff is available, but not all of it. So yeah, this is on the 23rd. I'm going to have a new tab in Disney Plus and a whole bunch of TV shows and movies to watch.
Well, that's good. I mean, Hulu is very good. We've actually subscribed to that consistently now for like a couple of years. And I think it's smart to put it in the Disney Plus app. I think that it would be nice if they did that here. I mean, I guess it's to a degree semantics, because you can buy Disney Plus and Hulu as a bundle along with ESPN and stuff in the US. So they are kind of packaged together already here. They're just, separate apps. But we watch Hulu quite a bit. And we watch it more than we do Disney Plus. I mean, Disney Plus to me has gotten off to a very slow start. If you are the kind of person who rewatches movies you've already seen, it's really great because you've got Star Wars and Marvel and Pixar and all that. But I don't do a lot of that, and there are some Pixar movies that I didn't see when they came out in theaters, so that's been kind of nice. But there hasn't been a ton of new content until more recently on Disney Plus. So I kind of almost wish that I had waited on Disney Plus until year 2 to subscribe, because before this, Mandalorian was just about all I ever watched on Disney Plus, and I initially signed up for a solid 2 years. Got some kind of crazy good deal through, signing up with your email to Disney's like fan club or something. Some really good deal that I paid for it all up front. It didn't cost a ton of money, and now I just have it, and that's fine, and it's good, and I like it. But I don't watch it nearly as much as we watch things like Netflix and Hulu. I think Netflix and Hulu are the two core services that we use in terms of watching television.
Yeah. I mean, this, for me, like I say, the only deal they did for us was if you signed up for a year. You got a discount, so I've got to pay again, I think, next month. But I'm looking through the list they've got here, and, the back catalogue of TV shows they've got seems pretty good.
Yeah,
like there's Buffy, which is obviously from, that's fairly old, but then Desperate Housewives, Family Guy, Firefly, Grey's Anatomy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. Whether I watch it all or not is a different story, because obviously I've seen at least some of this.
Right.
But there's definitely a couple of bits on here that I'm like, oh yeah, I could watch that. And then there's a whole bunch of movies on here as well. I guess probably a lot of these are like just Fox and Disney published movies where they're not the family friendly type stuff that they would normally that they're not going to put on Disney Plus. Right.
Well, anyway, good. So you're going to sign up again and get your Star going forward?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to pay for another year, no problem, because we watch quite a bit of stuff on there anyway. And with Falcon and the Winter Soldier come in, and then I think there's some other Marvel show coming this year. I can't remember what it is that's coming after that, but there's a lot of stuff coming. I'm just going to pay for this forever.
Yeah, no, and I think this year is the year that really kind of breaks the logjam, and a lot of interesting stuff is coming out. So I am looking forward to it now, going forward. One thing that I've been doing is experimenting some more with over-the-air TV, which is funny because it's like high-tech solutions to old-fashioned television, because there still are some things you can't get on streaming. It's pretty limited list these days. I mean, even like the Super Bowl streams and stuff like that. And we don't watch a lot of sports, so it's not as big an issue for us. But things like the Oscars and the Grammys, a lot of times those are only available over the air, local news, things like that. And plus you can record stuff over the air and not have to subscribe. So for instance, if you don't want to subscribe to CBS All Access, you can do CBS over the air. And while it's not the same catalog of stuff, some of the more popular shows that are current shows are still available over the air, and they're in HD. So it's a pretty nice solution. And I've been messing around with that. In the past, I've used Plex, and I've had a Plex Pass, which gives you the ability to use Plex as a DVR. And I have a HD Home Run, which is basically it's a little box that sits in a spare bedroom in our house that takes a signal from an antenna, transcodes the signal into I forget what the video codec is, but in any event, it transcodes the video and it goes straight over Ethernet and is available in Plex. And as a result, you can watch it on an Apple TV or a computer or whatever you want to do. And I've never been a big fan of Plex, though. I find the UI to be kind of bad, and I don't use a lot. A lot of the reason people use Plex is because they've got these massive libraries of like ripped movies and stuff like that. And I don't really do that. And I don't, I stream my music. I don't use, I don't really pay attention to my old downloaded music anymore. I don't have big collections of movies and that sort of thing. So Plex was a little bit of overkill. So I moved over to something called Channels, which is an iOS and Apple TV app that has a terrific UI, and it's dead simple to use. And it's really, there's a free version that lets you watch live TV, but then there's a paid subscription, which is like $80 a year, that you can then use the DVR service and record shows off TV, off the air, and then, play them back later. And that's what I've been starting to do. And I kind of like it. I mean, there are shows on there that I'm taping right now, that I'm recording right now, that are things that I can get on Hulu, but they're immediately available instead of maybe like a day later type thing. And sometimes that's kind of fun to just watch it that way. I mean, the thing that really got me going on this was that I've always had difficulty finding an antenna that works well in this where I live. And I could get like a big thing on the roof, and that would work great. But I didn't really want to go to that expense because I really don't watch over the air a ton, but I wanted to have the ability to do it anyway. So I got something that sits in a window, and I found one that actually has some smarts in it, some electronics built in it, made by a company called Channel Master, that tunes in, kind of finds the right tuning for your geography as to where you are compared to the broadcast antennas. So it works, right? So it works a lot better than it used to, and that's why I was willing to finally subscribe to this Channels, which is a little more expensive than Plex, because Plex Pass, I think, is $5 a month, and this is like $8 a month. So it's a little bit more. And this is the thing, too, that, I mean, I have it. You can have access to it off your network, so, like, Federico will tune into the Super Bowl from Rome and watch it on local Chicago TV, which is kind of funny. He'll do that like 3 or 4 times a year for things like the Oscars and the Grammys and stuff like that. But that's nice. And since my 2 older kids are not on our network because they're off at school or whatever, they have access to that stuff too, which is kind of nice for them. And what's the other thing I like about Channels is that, one, the iPad app actually works really well on the Mac. It's the first on an M1 Mac. It's the first iPad app that I've used on an M1 Mac that I actually found enjoyable to use. They're adding a bunch of new features, like the ability, for instance, to create a link that's just a text file that will let you watch other streaming services inside of Channels. So you could take that WandaVision episode, create a link, and have it show up in Channels. If you wanted to use Channels as kind of your home base instead of something like the Apple TV app, something like that. And that makes sense for people who like maybe use channels on a Raspberry Pi or something like that.
Right.
Yeah,
of course.
Right. So like the Apple TV, maybe it's not such a great idea because you've got other options there, but a lot of people run this off of a computer or off a Raspberry Pi, that kind of thing. And then they now support something called Play On, which is a service I didn't know existed, but it's been around for a while. Have you ever heard of this?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I looked it up when you added it to the notes, but I have absolutely no idea what this service is.
It lets you record streaming services using some sort of copyright loophole in the United States. So, and it's only stuff you already subscribe to. So you sign up for Play On, and there's a bunch of different ways it works. It has a Windows app. It also has a cloud service, and I've been using the cloud service. So what you do is you buy credits, and for like $8, I got 25 credits, and 25 credits lets you record 25 shows. And you spend the credit, they record it in real time remotely on their servers, and then you get the file back, the M4A file back that you can use any way you want. And I guess the biggest downside is that it's 720p. So that's not terrific. But supposedly they have 1080 coming, which would be good. And it takes time. Like I wanted to test it out, so I recorded 8 episodes of The Flight Attendant from HBO, and it took 8 hours because it's real time recording. But eventually, I got an alert on my watch saying, your shows are done, and they were there, and it's kind of nice. Now, why would you want to do that? One reason is you want to record a movie that's on Netflix that's going to drop off of Netflix in a week,
sure.
That kind of thing. It's really good for that sort of thing. Or if you subscribe to a service like Hulu, which Hulu's really bad about this, where it's like you can use it for a couple of days off your local network, but then it blocks you. So you generally have to be on your local Wi-Fi network in order to use Hulu. So like my kids who aren't at home anymore, they can use this service for, it's really inexpensive to watch stuff that they can't get otherwise. So, off the network. So that's kind of nice. I was just amazed that this even exists. It feels a little sketchy, I guess.
Yeah, I am wondering, I know you said there's a loophole. I'm wondering how legal this is.
It feels a little sketchy. Again, it's only things that you actually already subscribe to, because what you do is you actually go in and log in with your credentials for those services in the app. So you can then access their guide and then record the things. So
right, so not only are you potentially breaking copyright law, you're probably breaking Netflix terms of service somehow.
Well, that probably is true. You are undoubtedly breaking terms of service in some way, but that's not the same thing as like committing a crime, fortunately. But
no, of course not.
But still, yes. But it exists, and I was kind of amazed that it exists, and I don't know. I'm experimenting with it. I have grand experiments planned for automating this in some way, because I'm thinking that there's got to be a good way to make this happen behind the scenes with some scripting and things without having to do a whole lot of without having to do a lot of work on my part. Not that poking a few at my phone a few times is really that much work, but yeah, it's always fun to kind of automate these things.
Well, I haven't been experimenting anywhere near quite that interesting. But I did try the KFC Double Crunch Zinger crisps, or chips, as you would call them.
Yes. All right, you got to tell me about these, because, this is a thing that I know. Chicken-flavored snacks is not really a thing in America so much. It's becoming more of a thing. I've seen it here and there. But I do believe that this has been a bigger deal in the UK, at least, and maybe Europe more generally in the past than it is now.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying before recording, but Walkers, which is called Lay's everywhere else, I think, in Europe and in the US.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've had chicken flavored crisps for as long as I can remember, so probably like 20 or 30 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's always been like something you've always been able to buy. And this like Max branding that these crisps are, with the link I sent you, like this seems to be their new brand where they do like really spicy, or they've got some like jalapeno ones of these and stuff like
these
that.
These are edgy snacks, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, these are for people that really love crisps.
Have it with their Red Bull or Rockstar.
Wait, how did you know? Are you in my house?
I am.
So I'd seen these. I don't know. Somebody had posted and said, "Oh, look, KFC are doing crisps now," and I was like, "Yeah, whatever, okay." And they're only selling them in one supermarket at one point, and I was like, "Well, I'm not going there. I can't be bothered." And then Jess came back and said, "Oh, I saw the KFC crisps, so I bought them for you." And I was like, "Oh, brilliant, perfect. I haven't had to do anything. They're just already in the house."
That's great.
I mean, like a lot of this kind of weird promotional stuff, specifically with crisps, I think it's a thing where they do these weird flavors and then they just disappear forever. I wasn't too sure about these. I thought, do I want a KFC flavored crisp? I mean, they're nice. They don't taste like KFC. They just taste like chicken crisps, but they're a bit spicy. But I did enjoy them. So if I see them again, I might pick them up again.
All right. Well, I actually tried a similar edgy snack, which was Doritos Spicy Sweet Chili Chips. All right. So these have kind of a boy. I don't even know how to describe. It's a little bit like sriracha sauce, but with sweetness to it, like sriracha and honey almost.
Sure.
It's pretty good. They're all right for Doritos. I'm not a big fan of Doritos, but I have a teenager in my house, so lots of snacks in this house all the time.
I'm trying to find a link to them, and I just keep ending up on websites that are trying to get me to install Flash.
No. It's Doritos. I just typed in Doritos chili to find it. It's Doritos spicy sweet chili flavor.
Oh yeah, I found them now.
Yeah, the
spicy
purple bag.
Sweet chili.
Yeah,
yeah.
Those are all right. Those are all right if you like junk food. That's
go
junky.
I mean, I'm not sure. I found them on these are fairly popular over here, American food, but in the UK. Like, so they obviously import it and stuff. But they're out of stock. I can put my email address in. They'll tell me when they're back in, and I can pay an extortionate amount of money for a very small bag of crisps.
Yeah. We have those over here too. Don't worry. That sell like UK stuff. You get like your Cadbury chocolate and stuff like that.
Yeah, we saw that. Like when we were in New York, we were in the shops and stuff, and we'd see like the British section.
You're right.
And I mean, firstly, like some of the things that they bring, I think you imported that. People like this is some really bad stuff.
Yeah, it's usually like shortbread cookies and various teas and I don't know, Cadbury chocolates and I don't know what else, but yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I mean, the Cadbury chocolate makes sense because America has terrible chocolate.
It's true. I love the Cadbury chocolate. Every time we go to Ireland to visit my son, and we always bring back loads of it, as much as we can pack in our suitcase. We bring back. Do you have Butler's chocolate in Plymouth? Butler's chocolate.
Plymouth.
I think it's
in Portsmouth.
I meant Portsmouth. I think it's Irish, actually. Now that I think of it.
No,
At first
I
thought
it's an Irish.
Yeah,
company.
at first I thought it was UK based in Ireland, but it's actually Irish based, I think. Anyway, Butler's chocolates are very good too.
We have, I mean, looking at their presentation and the kind of chocolates they've got, there's I can't remember off the top of my head now, but there's a company that do similar sort of. I guess it's like slightly more upmarket chocolates.
Yeah, they're kind of fancy. They're kind of fancy.
Yeah.
Good for Valentine's Day. I still regret that we didn't get those Crocs that smell like KFC chicken.
Yeah, I know.
It's one of my greatest regrets in life, really.
These are the things we have to live with.
I bet you could have sold those on eBay for a lot, too. I mean, you could have enjoyed them for a while and then sold them to some teenager who was collecting odd shoes.
Yeah, that is true. Wow. Here we are.
We're just
talking about it instead.
Missed opportunity. That and GameStop stock. We didn't get that either.
Oh, don't.
Diamond hands.
Yeah. Wow. That was a whole thing.
It was a thing.
Yeah, that was fun to watch that. I have like, I don't know, $50 worth of stocks of varying things. Like it's not an actual amount that makes any difference. And I certainly didn't have any GameStop or anything like that.
I enjoyed watching it unfold and people getting outraged at how the stock market works because in my former life, I have a very keen understanding as to how things like Robinhood works under the hood. Even though they say they are a service of the people, I understand exactly how stock trading how stock transactions actually occur from having dealt with that in a failure situation, which is what Robinhood almost did, and what was happening there was not surprising at all, and I think a lot of people's eyes were open to how the game is a little rigged, I guess, against the small investor. I was not surprised. I mean, people's outrage is not misplaced, but I wasn't particularly surprised about it. It's nothing new. I'll put it that way. It's nothing new. I don't think Robinhood was doing anything that was unusual or that isn't done at every single other company that does trades for consumers. But yeah, I mean, their problem was they sold themselves as the underdogs who were doing something for the little guy when they really weren't.
No. I mean, it's like you say. I think people going, "Oh, this is outrageous! We need to alert the people." And it's like, yeah, this is how the stock market works.
This has been going on for decades at this point. But yeah, it doesn't make it right. It's just like it's not shocking at all. So.
No, it's like this is literally how it was designed.
Right, it's working the way it's supposed to, in fact, and you can quibble with that, which there's plenty of room to quibble with that. But saying that Robinhood was doing something unusual, that they weren't doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway,
well,
that's a little bit of financial U.S. policy right there that we've delved into. You get a little bit of everything from this podcast, really, Rob.
Exactly. You get your snacks, your Disney updates.
It's like a snack itself. You can dabble in a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We've got expertise in many fields.
It's like a snack podcast, a SnackCast. There we go.
There you go. Oh, you take that and run with it. Don't regret it. Move on it.
Oh,
just like we should have moved on those Crocs.
Absolutely, I know. Well. Anyway.
All right. Well, I guess we better stop there before we get too much further into this.
Yeah, I think we probably should. We're going down a bit of a rabbit hole, I think.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks then.